bulletin. Now that I've read these things, I'm horrified, I'm embarrassed, I didn't do my job, I was wrong. He forms a task force to decide how the bulletin is going to proceed and how they're going to make it a bulletin that's representative of all of the people in the organization. The editor resigns.
Haven't they been announcing a lot of resignations? I thought I saw it.
There have been a number of people, a number of authors who have resigned their membership and joined a different professional organization that will provide them with things like healthcare and a union. But the initial wave of resignations kind of turned when it became clear very quickly that way more people in Cephala were upset about what they were seeing than were offended that anybody was upset. I think what you're seeing is basically the changeover of the old guard to the new guard and the conflict in between. But it gets better. So that's where we left it at the time that we had the panel discussion. That was where it was. Like, Matt was going to talk about, wow, isn't it this crazy thing, and what are they going to do? So what it's now turned into is there's this guy, Vox Day. Theodore Beale is his name. He writes under Theodore Beale in Vox Day. If you ever want to lose your lunch, I highly recommend going to any of his websites and reading for 2 minutes, and you'll just be nauseated. He is racist. He is sexist. He doesn't like gay people. If there's anybody who's not exactly like him, he hates them and has no problem using racial slurs, hate speech, threats of violence, threats of rape. This is his like standard communicating procedure. There is now a movement in Cephala to get him out, and he's trying to fight it legally. At the same time, the news came out, and this kind of ties back into convention harassment, that one of the head editors at Tor, since the beginning of Tor, sexually harassed someone at a convention. The convention had a strong harassment policy.
This is the WishCon one?
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. This is James Frankel from Tor. He was investigated for sexual harassment, and he was removed from his position at Tor, which is a massive, massive victory. Because the first thing that happened when this woman actually officially complained and then decided to sit down and write about her experiences, she got death threats. She got rape threats. And overwhelmingly, from people who normally I've come to see as voices of reason, she got comments like, but everybody knew he was like that, what's your problem? Apparently this guy has been sexually harassing people and potentially sexually assaulting people, depending on, there's a lot of unverified stuff out there, so depending on who you want to believe, he may have actually have gone as far as assaulting people for something like 30 years, and everyone's known about it. It's not even, I wouldn't even call it an open secret. It's apparently just absolutely the thing. Like, oh, well, if James Frankel is the guy that you're dealing with at Tor, he's going to proposition you in exchange for publishing your book.
All of the complaints were informal, so therefore
so there was nothing formal on the record, and a lot of people didn't even informally complain. This woman was the first person in like 25, 30 years to actually file a formal complaint against the guy. And then finally, when I was doing all of my follow-up research on this to talk about Cephala and what I thought they should do and so on, as I was going through the website, this is where we get to intersectionality, I find that two people, one of whom I am almost 100% positive is actually Theodore Beale, aka Vox Day, and another person who apparently is on my side, who is also a male, and I'm going to assume from the things that he wrote that he is white. They decide that they're going to go back and forth on the forum posting about this task force that's been created to decide what to do with the bulletin. First, the guy who is on my side starts saying, well, you know, all you people who are angry, you're just angry because things are changing. Just because people used to have slaves doesn't mean that slavery was a good thing and we should keep doing it. Okay, fair point, except he uses the N-word. This is the guy who is on our side, uses the N-word, and then the other guy, who I'm pretty sure is Theodore Beale, the first guy, he put an asterisk in for the I. Like, the word's less offensive if I can't see one of the vowels. And then he goes on, the other guy goes on to just blatantly use the word all over his posting. And, like, I don't even know who to smack first in that situation. The guy who should know that just because you're defending somebody and you feel like a liberal, there are words that we do not use in conversation. Or the guy who was like, oh, well, he used it, so now I'm just going to throw it all over. So I approached Cephala. First I tweeted, and I said, hey guys, there's some racial slurs on your slide. I'm really concerned about this. You haven't talked to me about it? Nothing. A week later, I sent an email to the president and the vice president. A week after that, I got a comment back from the vice president that said, wow, we didn't know about this, you know, we really don't have a posting policy or anything, and we probably should, and this issue has really forced us to examine, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, okay, well, it's kind of dumb of you to not have a policy because you're writers and you run multiple websites where people write things. You should probably have some kind of codified laws for how we behave and how we talk and so on, but okay. But good, you're doing something about it. I gave them, it's been 3 weeks now, I gave them 3 weeks to do something about it. Today, right before the panel, I went back to the site The guy who was speaking on our side, nothing. It's still printed right up there with one little star obscuring the letter. The other guy, they just left the N and blanked out the rest of the word. That was their apparent way of dealing with it. So take that for what you will. I just sent them a letter that said I did not think that that was even remotely appropriate, that the words were not less offensive when they blanked parts of them out, because I still knew what was there, and did they want to comment, and now we'll see. I actually have gotten some messages right before the panel from people in Suffolk who don't really have any control over anything but are members who are going, wait, what? And they're going and looking at it now. So I'm hoping that maybe they'll take it down or something, or build a better policy than the stupid one they have going.
When you start scratching the surface of rancid opinions, you find all this other stuff after it flakes off, and like it's all just all under there. And it's because, like, if you don't talk about it, then no one.
Yeah. No, there's all these people who just, I think, were like, well, the forums are just people grumping anyway, so I'm not looking.
Right.
But man, as a female who is looking at Safwa and going, what are you guys gonna do? Like, I feel excluded. I know this is a minority that's doing this, but they're the loudest people in your group. What are you gonna do about it? I don't feel like they've done very much. So that's the Safwa issue.
Yeah.
And I left stuff out.
Scouts is no longer president, right?
No, he's the past president. The new president is Stephen Gould, who wrote Jumper, which, if you're not familiar with the book, you probably saw the movie. And he is similarly a generally good guy. So hopefully he will continue things on the path that well, so one of the things I left out is there's a big fight going on. Again, I'm gonna show you guys a website where you can read everything. You can read all these quotes, see all this information for yourself. A Twitter account has sprung up because Vox Day is a big Twitter guy called SFWA Fascists. And it's supposed to be a parody of the screeching harpy witches of the SFWA. And it's all of these tweets about, oh, we hate anyone who disagrees with us. We're so insecure with ourselves that we have to make people PC, just all this garbage. They published a list called PC Monsters of Safwa, and it's this list of like 20 authors that have had something to say about all of this bullshit. And this list, of course, was supposed to be like, oh, those are the bad PC people. Instead, all of these people picked up like 600 followers. These people have organized to build a parody account of the parody account. So they basically just switched the username and the Twitter handle, and they're using that to tweet all of this really, really funny stuff about whoever is starting the account. But Stephen Gould is on that list, so we know he's a good guy. He's one of the PC monsters of Safwa. So that is now my dividing line for good guys and bad guys in this.
Can I ask you a question about this? The Barbie versus Brad Spartak. Yeah. Since I didn't know about that, I was just like completely taken aback. Do you know if they said anything about why that would even belong in a sci-fi newsletter in the first place?
My impression, I will be able to give you the link to that article. That article is in this roundup that I have for everybody. But also, my impression from reading a lot on the issues is there's a lot of stuff in that bulletin that you really want to ask, why is this in the Safwa bulletin?
All I know is I'm going to go down to SW Randall and I'm going to ask them for the Geek Girl Barbie edition. I want to see that. Barbie probably disavowed all of that stuff.
Oh, but she maintains her quiet dignity like she should.
Not if you got the string and you pull it and you just, What is Vox Day written? What is he known for? A king?
He's known for being a boil on the ass of society. He's written, I think, a few things. Honestly, I had no idea who he was until this all started. An author named N.K. Jensen. She was a guest of honor recently at a convention, and her whole speech was basically about how Safwa needs to get rid of Vox Day, and so then Vox Day just started attacking her on sexist grounds, on racial grounds, and that was how I found out who he was. Like my only experiences with him have been that he is a hateful bigot.
He doesn't actually have
I think he has published
note.
Books, but again, I own a science fiction and fantasy bookstore, and I never heard of him until this happened. So, and not that I know everything, because I will be learning about these genres every single day I'm here for the rest of my life, but I never heard of the guy. I don't think he is like huge in sci-fi fantasy. He has a small, very, very fanatical following. I know that. He has about 1,600, I think, followers on Twitter. He's got a small group. They are very vigorous in defending him and
KKK members.
Yeah, I was gonna say because they're also assholes.
Yeah, but I know that if you Google him, you can start to find. I mean, he's had disputes, especially with women in Safwa and people of color in Safwa, for going back a long time. For like 2 years, John Scalzi was talking on his Twitter about an author who he really had a problem with, and they were almost like warring, and he never mentioned his name because he didn't want to give him any press, and it turns out that that's who this was. Like every encounter I know of with him and anybody is like fractious and angry and.
So we can stop
generally
all of this and just say something, because it seems like so much of this is like God.
I was just gonna say, he ran against Stephen Gould for the civil presidency, and he actually got 10% of the votes.
Oh!
But it's important to note, somebody pointed this out to me because I saw that number and I was horrified.
500 votes or so?
Yeah, it was like a lot of people didn't vote. He did not get 10% of Safwa's membership. He got 10% of the people who voted for him. So it's not as bad as it seems. Still, yeah, it's still scary.
So what does this do for, or what does it not do for female sci-fi writers? Do you think that they're looking in on this and
A lot of them are. A lot of the writing that's been done, and there's been a lot over the last few months, has been from women who are in Safwa. A few of them resigned. A lot of them said, I was just about to resign, and then I went, wait a minute, I'm not leaving. You can leave. But I think I think more important is what it's done to the readership, who has now seen this very public, very nasty argument play out. I think if I was a writer and I was a member, I would feel like I could control something. I can write letters. I can threaten to resign my membership. I can write and post things on their official boards. As a reader, all I can do is sit here and watch and wonder if I'm welcome in that community. And that's what bothers me, that there are, especially women much younger than me, all over the world watching this happen and wondering if the authors that they read even want them reading or feel like they belong there. That's what bothers me.
or just trying to shoot bags?
Yeah, I mean, it bothers me that I now have a little list in my head of authors I never read. I don't care what they have to say anymore. That horrifies me. I always try to separate my artists from their politics, and you get in a lot of trouble that way. And now this is unavoidable. And it bothers me that the experience I had like 15 years ago when I walked into a comic book shop for the first time and just got stared at, and then the guy behind the counter tried to cheat me out of money. Like, I brought in comic books to trade. He made a comment, oh, these are your boyfriend's comics, huh? And then he totally tried to screw me out of the money that he owed me for the comics by pretending that they weren't worth anything. And boy, was he floored when I knew what they were, and I knew what they were worth, and I made him call his manager. And there's like 3 guys in the shop, and they're staring at me the whole time. And it was, I mean, I had the total fight or flight. Like, I just wanted to crawl under something or run away. And I stayed and I fought it out. And now, many years later, I walk into a comic book store and there's a girl behind the counter. And they're shopping.
I still
comfortable,
have
but I'm
stuff like that happen.
And it still happens, but it happens less. And I feel like with Safwa, there's a whole new generation of girls who I thought maybe wouldn't have to deal with that much, that now are going to have that same stomach-dropping feeling I had the first time I walked into a comic book shop.
Like, it was just a couple of weeks ago that my husband and I had gone to a comic book store, and I was on my own, and he was looking at stuff, and I had chosen the new Manhattan Projects and Marvel Sense and Sensibility, and I had Sense and Sensibility on top, holding them at my side, and the dude at the counter gave me the look, the flip look with the comics. I'm sure you guys have seen that before, and I am still not confident enough to just give a look back. I took Manhattan Projects and put it over Sense and Sensibility. I hid my girlier comic to put my more dude comic on top, so that I wouldn't have to like get something like that.
Well, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I was just going to say, I mean, I have a kind of a unique perspective of this. I mean, I didn't know if I was actually going to bring this up or not, but I am transgender. I went to comic book stores pre-transition and post-transition, and whenever I do the talks about being transgender, I always say, I know what it's like to walk down the street as a man, and I know what it's like to walk down the street as a woman, and let me tell you, it's completely different. I learned that, I think the first time I walked into a comic book store, post-transition, it was like I walked in, it was like that part in Animal House where they walked into the bar, and then there was a record skip, and everybody just stopped and looked. Yeah, and then I'm not going to mention the name of this one, but they did not treat me very well. And I'm like, I wasn't treated like this pre-transition. They actually took my word for things. I'm not talking down to me anymore. So, yeah, I've experienced that firsthand. Like,
and it's like, it's stomach dropping. It's like if you're in high school and you have that moment where you do something really embarrassing and you realize that you don't fit in and everyone's staring, except you're a grown adult and you're just doing this thing that you do and you like and you know about and you're still dealing with it. It's very Twilight Zone. it's just a horrible experience.
I feel very lucky that the store that I had been loyal to for years and years and years and years and years has never treated me like that. And I've never had an employee treat me, talk down to me, be horrible to me in any way. But I talked to so many other women that have had these horrible experiences, and there are stores that don't take the time to make sure that every customer who's coming through the door gets treated fairly, that you don't act like gatekeepers from behind the desk. And then I see all of these store owners who are complaining about nobody wants to come into our store and everyone's buying digital and it's destroying us. It's like, you know what? Maybe if you guys looked at your business practices and didn't treat people who are coming through your doors like they don't deserve to be there, you wouldn't have this problem. Digital isn't putting you out of business. The fact that you suck at business and now have competition is putting you out of business.
I think that's a huge thing that we haven't talked about yet, is that a lot of times sexism gets excused by companies being like, well, the money is where the guys are. The guys are the ones that are consuming this media. And like, well, you're telling us that we don't belong here, so you're telling us basically we don't even want our money in the first place.
DC Comics
like, we're throwing money at you, and you're like,
DC Comics has been having huge issues with that for years. There is a site called Has DC Done Something Stupid Today, which tracks whether or not DC Comics has done something stupid on that particular day and counts how many days it's been. And half of the things are like they have once again tried to alienate their female fan base. When they relaunched the entire DC universe into what they're calling the New 52, they got rid of a lot of fairly popular female characters. There was one major character in the Batman universe. Her name was Stephanie Brown. She was the first modern generation female Robin. There'd been one other one. It was in Frank Miller's book set in the future. But it was this big deal because there was this female Robin. And then she got fridged and then unfridged because they can do that. And was brought back as the new Batgirl. And then right after she came back as Batgirl, they redid the whole universe and relaunched everything, and she just disappears from continuity completely. She's gone. She and the girl who had been Batgirl before her, which was an Asian girl by the name of Cassandra Cain, also disappears. The only Batgirl has ever been Barbara Gordon, who is awesome, but suddenly these two are gone. And so people at cons started asking, like, well, are Cassandra and Steph ever going to come back?
I don't think so.
People really like that.
Usually just Monday to
There have
Friday.
been 2 or 3 times that we have seen within DC's solicits Steph Brown coming back, and then all of a sudden it's pulled, and when people go, what about? They're like, Steph Brown doesn't exist. What are you talking about? There's no Steph Brown. No Steph Brown. Somebody bring me another drink. I don't know. But DC has had this huge problem for some reason with their female readership, to the point that sometimes it looks like they don't want us. It is to the point that one of my favorite writers, Gail Simone, writes primarily for DC. One of my other favorite writers has been doing strictly DC work for years, Grant Morrison. I don't buy DC Comics. I have stopped buying DC Comics because it's like, you know what, I'm voting with my money. I don't think you want it. Or you want my money, but you don't want to reflect me in your works. You don't want me anywhere near you. The other time this comes up, and this has been a big kerfluffle lately, is video games. Because there has been a lot about female characters in video games. And there has been blowouts about, there was a game that was recently released with a female protagonist where they couldn't sell it for years, like the developers couldn't sell it, and when they finally got somebody to publish the game, they came out and said, everyone else we went to said, you can't have the player play as a female character. And they said, why? And they said, we have a scene where she kisses a guy, and you can't make male players do that. I said, but you can make females play as a guy who kisses a girl. And they're like, that's fine, guys, because girls don't play video games. My breakdown at this point is that women are 50% of who is buying video games. Like, we're half of where your money is coming from.
We're 51% of the population.
But a lot of how that gets written off in a lot of conversations is, oh, but the girls are buying the puzzle games, and they're buying Katamari, and they're buying